edition of FIDE. FIDE is a monthly technology session hosted by FIDE in association with NASSCOM. This session aims to provide a platform for tech enthusiasts to come together to discuss and analyze the emerging trends in technology in the IT industry. This endeavor aims to create tech communities that will enable peer group learning. But before the session, let's start with few of the latest updates from the tech world. For that, I welcome Anjali for the Tech Byte session. Good evening, everyone. Today we have some exciting news to share. Our first topic is Google DeepMind introduces mobile Aloha humanoid technology. Google DeepMind and Stanford University have technologies to revolutionize household tasks. Together they have unveiled Mobile Aloha, an open source, innovative, affordable hardware system. It is designed for manual teleoperations, specifically aimed at enhancing the capabilities in cooking and cleaning. Let's watch a demo video.
It is just like when we are writing on the LLM, the hardware will be it is capable of reasoning a huge list. Actually, like a startup mission as well as I see person everyone trying to create certain things using Aloha. So
About Instagram, Instagram launches an innovative AI-powered background editing tool. So now users can set interesting background images for their Instagram stories. When users tap on the icon on the background editor icon on any page, they will get a ready prompt like prompts like chased by dinosaurs on a red carpet, surrounded by puppies. And user can also generate their own prompt to set the background as well. Once the user posted the story with the newly generated background, there is a trailing sticker with the prompt. So other users can also use the newly generated and image generation tools. So for now it's available in US and expected to made available to other globally within soon. Next one is GitHub launches Copilot chat. In the Copilot chat is a chat interface that lets you chat with the Copilot to ask and retrieve answers for various coding related questions from github.com and other supported IDs. Previously, it is available for the businesses and in beta users. Now it is available for GitHub Copilot in users. Next, we have a thrilling update from Microsoft that's setting to transform the way we interact with our PCs. After 3 decades of keyboard design, Microsoft is breaking new ground with the introduction of dedicated Copilot keys. It's not an evolution, it is a revolution in the world of PC keyboard.
it is just adding a new key to the open it itself. Just click on that key, like Windows button, that button, and change the coding.
And the last one is OpenAI GPT Store launched
So it is now, how many of you have used the GPTs right now? That is the generated neuron GPT. Yeah. So as of now, you do not need to know any program. Previously in the mobile app store or this thing that you need to code to create a mobile application. So for GPT, that is you set the prompt, you can generate new GPT, customize the name that it is a, for example, if you type alpha, you can create, give the prompt, generate one GPT, customize it, have a name, have an icon, and you can launch it in the Play Store. Store of GPT so that you can have your own GPT that is for a custom purpose. You do not need to know any programming. By using prompt itself, you can generate it. So it is, I think, for the past 2 months, we can generate if you have a GPT Plus. But right now, they are launching a store for that. So you can go and download the specific.
Thank you, Anjali. Without any further delay, let's enter to our main session. Our speaker for the day is Mr. Faiz Mohammed. With over 17 years of experience in software engineering, he has a strong track record in ideating and implementing strategies for large-scale engineering projects. An expert in open networks, his contributions include spearheading the implementation of such as ONEST, Open Gambia, UEI, and Open Belem. Currently, Faiz is the head of engineering at FIDE and is responsible for managing and delivering all critical tech projects related to the Beckn Protocol. Without a doubt, he's the best person to introduce you to technology. With that, I welcome Faiz for that session.
Great. Thank you. Today we will be doing the decoding mechanism. So before starting, I just wanted to mention about why the engineering at today. So basically, what we do is we are the genesis of the Beckn Protocol, and as engineering, we actually try to build a scalable innovative solution. So basically, the market is talking about Beckn as Beckn. Nobody understands it, but if we build more experience of local mechanism, then they can really understand it. So that is what my intention is. Okay. So I will try to decode Beckn as much as possible. I don't know how many of you actually really heard of Beckn before, but yeah, I'll try to give you as much information as possible. There are two things which I want to cover as part of this session. One is that what is the problem statement we are trying to solve into understand the business need, as well as one of the problem statement which we want to solve. Then and why Beckn, right? So the problems has already been solved, but what is that new thing we are trying to solve behind it? Okay. Then and how are we going to solve it? Through a technical lens, right? So Beckn talks about basically it's about technical and engineering principles. And maybe at the end, I'll actually introduce one of our understanding of Beckn, real Beckn in action. Okay, so let's stay tuned. So before we get started, I actually wanted to go back and understand how a commercial transactions happens all the time. Okay, we are actually talking about the problem, actually a retail uh, scenario, retail commercial transaction, then we have Amazon solving that problem, or Flipkart coming and solving that problem. So where Flipkart or Amazon will what it will try to do, that they have built a platform, they will onboard users, which is either sellers or buyers. And if you look at another domain, another problem where you wanted to do a doctor appointment, discover a doctor and do a doctor appointment booking, where Practo comes and try to solve the problem, they have built another platform. Okay, and they have onboarded doctors and they have onboarded users. Right. So if you look at it, this is actually the demand and supply. So in generic terms, in a commerce transaction, it is nothing but sellers and buyers. Right. So in Amazon, you will have a seller and you have a set of buyers. In Practo, you have doctors who are actually the sellers, and then you have patients who are actually the buyers. So this is how a typical commerce transaction problem has been solved right through platform. So what we have seen right now is that the platforms has to survive. They actually need to aggregate, right? So they aggregate a set of sellers and set of buyers, right? And they individually do a transaction. That is how the commerce transaction works. So if you really look at a real commerce transaction which happens on the internet, it actually goes through a certain process, right? It actually starts with a discovery, which is nothing but a search. If you look any platform today for a commerce platform, whether it is Practo, whether it is an Uber platform, or whether it is an Amazon, you actually start with a discovery, which is nothing but a search. Then you basically find, then you review the product or the service, whatever is being provided. Then after that, you start the ordering process, and you basically do a confirmation or make a payment and complete the order. So once that is done, uh, you either get the fulfillment. If it's a digital catalog, there is a after the transaction is done. Then you do a rating, and if you have a complaint, you provide a feedback. So this is how a typical commerce transaction happens on the internet. So some of the challenges which we see with the current model of problem solving using platforms, right, using commerce transactions, is that one is that it's a fragmented and siloed approach. So which means you have Amazon and Flipkart solving the same problem, okay, and there is a siloed economy which is getting generated, right? The other problem is actually the data privacy problem. So you have they are actually capturing huge amount of user data, and there are chances of manipulation. The other is the regulatory challenges. The government is not able to regulate those platforms. Like you can actually see that Uber actually increases the prices when there is a rain, when there is a traffic, when there is a when it is actually heavy rain. All sort of problems are there, and then government is not able to regulate it. It's because it is emerging as a monopoly activity. So other things are like limited choices, right? You can the success of the platform depends on how many sellers are there and how many users are there, right? It all depends on that. And the platform lock-in. You cannot, if you're actually in Uber and you try to move to some other platform, you actually lose the rating. You cannot take over the users or the rating which you have actually generated on that platform. So all these problems are actually there in the flexibility and agility, right? Or maybe GPS or who can be on even some of these things which you said. So many years back, we have still solved this kind of scalable problem, right? And but gradually, when it comes to commerce internet, that is the so we actually just talked about the problem statement, what platform is solving, and now can we actually build something? That is what Beckn is trying to do. So if you look at okay, Faiz, before we move forward, I think it will be better if we can let the team uh, refresh on what they have learned and understood, because Beckn is a way of thinking. Actually, we are always thinking on a platform-based model. Right? Whenever we see a problem, we want to solve it by building a platform, and we are okay with that. We are satisfied with that, and we do not see like Amazon as a barrier. Like Amazon is there that provides us all those information. Amazon has that API, that is people can connect to Amazon. Then same time Flipkart is there. Flipkart also provides, or Google Maps it has API, or so um, always we see it like that is how it is. The internet is, or that is how a application. I mean, that is how in the with the last recent years, right? That is how the world has been thinking. Yeah. And the world is teaching us to think that. And everyone is a hero. Like they go themselves and solve the problem, right? That is, I created this platform to solve the problem of e-commerce, or I created this problem to solve the Uber got created to solve the taxi problem, or our charge that we have to pay, or the security problem that can be caused by hiring a rider, etc. Hiring a rider, etc. So here, like when we look into backend, like what the need for that? That is the question that everyone will ask, because we know like we can create a platform. It has APIs, and then users will be onboarded, and users will have their solutions there. They will be able to make use of that platform. So what difference does Beckn make for a normal user? That is one question that comes to the user. Yeah. Second one is like if I am a startup, the startup pitch itself is like I solve the problem, right? Yeah. There is a problem and I have a solution for that. So this is a different way of thinking. So I just want everyone to digest that first, understand what is open network, and then how does it solve it. So it would be better if you can come up with some examples to help them understand. Yeah, open network. So did everyone understood what open network is, or is there any questions that you have? Because you can understand like what we are talking about problem today. The problem is like Amazon is in a silo. That is what they are telling, right? We don't see it as a problem normally, but after understanding the open network, then we start seeing it as a problem. Okay.
So just correct my understanding. So
Yeah.
open network is something like task. Do you know task ML? So it's like pandas, TensorFlow in Python. And what task does is it distributes the data. So suppose you have a huge number of huge database. What task does is it distributes the data into a single system or multiple systems. So if you're working online like cloud based, you can use multiple systems at a time so that the computation efficiency like on a scale of big data analysis. So in my perspective, that is like an open network.
That I think to an extent it is correct. Yeah. So what we are trying to do, I'll just give you a very small example, right? Just to connect. Let us listen to them with their perspective on open network. Okay.
Yeah. So this was great so far. So I'm just trying to understand. So um, we're creating a protocol that any seller or any selling platform, like if I wanted to open a store, an online store,
Yes.
I can use the Beckn protocol. And
Yeah.
one of my friends also wants to open a store. He can also use the same protocol, right? And a seller who wants to appear in both of our stores can do it simultaneously because he is also using the same protocol. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah. So which means when all of them are actually talking the same language,
Yep.
you are actually part of the network,
Right.
right? The reason why when I connect my laptop to the internet, I'm actually talking HTTP protocol.
Right.
So which means I'll be able to access any website. I can even maybe chat on WhatsApp. All of these things happen over.
Right. So if somebody buys something from my
Yeah.
store, right, is the inventory also automatically updated, or does both sellers have to do something?
No, I think I'll not come to that. But I actually wanted to give you a small analogy. right? In most cases, I have an account in Amazon. I also have an account in Flipkart, right? You as a seller will have an account in Amazon as well as on Flipkart, right? The reason is because you don't know where the demand is, right? Because you don't know who is actually going to generate the demand and where your consumer is going to. So you register in all the brands. But when it comes to and assuming Amazon and Flipkart are both mechanized, right? Which means they are talking the same language, then you just need to be only on one platform, either as a seller or as a user. So I being maybe a seller in Amazon, list one product there, right? Maybe some biscuits or something, okay? Now you might be in Flipkart as a user, and both are part of the same network. It's not that there is a one-to-one connection between Amazon and Flipkart, nothing like that. You are actually part of the network and you are mechanized, and both of them can actually interact and discover each other. So when you type biscuits over there, what happens is that it is going to fire a request to the open network. So which means both whatever is listed on Flipkart, whatever is listed on Amazon will show up. Which means you have a choice right now. You will be able to discover what is there in both the networks. And now you will be able to, you have a choice, you can choose. So which means now the seller in one network just need to get registered only in one platform. The consumer need to get registered only in one platform. And you have the entire inventory, entire catalog available in the network. So it is a new paradigm. Actually, when you see like there is, if you look at the UPI, so UPI is powered by a protocol. Like the same people worked behind UPI or Aadhaar. So then they came up with Beckn. So what did UPI do? Each bank had their own mobile application, right? And you have to get into that bank for doing a transaction, right? And and you also own a credit card. You have to take a credit card everywhere. And the receiving and they need a POS machine to have the credit card transaction. So what did UPI do? You can explain. What did UPI do? So UPI, they came up with a spec, right? It's a spec. It's a very small spec which has like around 20 spec is what the protocol is. Like that is how everyone. And what they requested is that they requested each bank to implement the UPI on their core language. Now what happens is that when each bank started implementing the UPI spec on their core language, what happens is that there is a network being created, and each bank can communicate with the rest of the banks, right? So that is what it is. So which means now if I'm actually using a TPP, third party TSP, right, third party service provider like PhonePe, and I actually can discover an account which is which is actually linked to any of these banks accounts, right? Because all of these are actually implemented the same spec. So if I actually do a discovery, a search for a particular mobile number, right? Because ultimately it is a mobile number which is actually translated to the account. Now, since it is all UPI and if that mobile number is registered in any of the bank accounts, it will automatically show up, right? So, so it's a discover. Then after that, you can actually do a transaction on top of it. Okay. So, like I was talking to Sujit, like who is the CEO of FIDE. So, what he told is like that is when they were doing the UPI initially, like it was run by the credit card market, right? Credit card market was the biggest market. Even in US or any other country, it is the same right now. Even the UPI is not there. But when they went to like a Reserve Bank and told like that is we can come up with a schema, that this Beckn protocol is just like some nouns, some verbs. For example, the name, account name, etc. Use the same keywords there. So that is a noun, and some verbs means those are just some of the API calls. What action, discover or transact, and all those things. That is everyone using the responding to the same API. Even if you look at HTTP, is the same. HTTP has a set of verbs, right? Get is there, post is there, put, delete, right? So that is what it is. These are the actions you file. Just defining that protocol, and they went to actually went to Reserve Bank, and then they called SBA. SBA told like don't waste our time because we are into the credit card market. That credit card is the biggest business, and they were not interested. And then they went to phone pay. No, this Paytm. They were also not interested because they told like we are into the credit card market and we have this many they have already created a network using their wallet, so we are not interested. Yeah, they are not interested because they are already created a network and they do not want to be part of the network. And I think PhonePe was the one, and PhonePe and Yes Bank was the one who actually signed up for the network initially. It will take some time for the network to get established and the trust to get created. And after that, as of today, if you look at the network, all banks are there, right? PhonePe, Paytm, Google Pay, everyone can get transacted, and we do not need a POS machine at all. Even even the street vendors, they have the UPI. They allow UPI transaction. There is no cash transactions or credit card transaction that happens in most of the places.
And just assume that, assuming if the bank is not part of the network, will you go and take an account there?
So that is the network effect, that is the power. So UPI created a new paradigm for bank transaction, right? And right now we are used to it. Initially, everyone is afraid, like whether even the sellers were afraid, like whether I got the money or not. Then somebody invented a small thing telling like converting the message towards your payment of this rupees got credited, and then that itself solved the problem, trust problem, right? And as of now, after the trust got established, it is almost, I think, 3 trillion transactions happen today on this thing, and the growth that happened on UPA. And that is for the UPA transaction. So interoperability is the key. Like whichever bank you are in, it doesn't matter, right? It is just like establishing a network where the transactions happen. Like all those banks agree to use the protocol and make those accounts discoverable, transaction to happen using the APIs that is standardized by the protocol. So similarly, Beckn has created a protocol. It has created certain nouns and certain verbs. Verbs mean certain API calls and certain transactions. For example, ONDC is one implementation that he will be covering later. So ONDC is in a way where multiple e-commerce platform or multiple vendors can sell the product. So every product has a product name or name, price, inventory. All those things are common, right? And the transaction should happen. There are certain standardization. So all those standardization is what Beckn does. So creating it for everyone to use, everyone to, if everyone follows the same standard, what happens? Interoperability exists. So if you think like if you go to HTTP as an example, I just want to stress this part because we had a similar session in Huddle. So initially, like people have to get into that thought process of what is Beckn. Beckn is a way of thinking about thinking beyond what we are seeing today as the platform, and that is the startup ecosystem. Is everything is creating single platform. So beyond that, we have to get towards thinking. We have to enhance our thinking towards an open network. So you will also be talking about the garden and forest, right?
Yeah. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yeah. So,
Yeah. Yeah. So now I want people to think and ask questions on. He's the question.
No, he's Arjun. Okay. So, uh, when you are talking about open network, when it comes to infrastructure perspective, so right now we need billions of millions of dollar equipments to process huge data. Okay. So when we have a network which can connect individual machines to that network, we can actually solve that problem of millions of dollar case, like with a
not necessarily. I'll come to that because there is another problem statement associated to that, right? Network actually comes with its own baggage, right? So there is actually it does not really solve it, but I will discuss about some of the ways by which how the market is trying to solve that problem. We'll get to that little more.
So one more thing that I will add, like when the UPA network established and the trust brought in, all the banks adhere to that, and transaction is ready, right? So what did PhonePe do? What they just created a small front end app where you can authenticate your user, scan it, and another QR code you get another ID and enter the amount. Transaction will happen, right? They do not need to worry about any kind of interaction with the bank or anything of that sort. Everything the network will take care of. They just need to create call a API in the network to do this transaction from this to the other one. They do not need to worry to talk to bank or anyone else because everything is available in the network, and that create lot of opportunities to build startups, right? And
become unicorns. So that is a huge opportunity out there. That is, we ourselves could have created an application like PhonePe, right?
So it is a two endpoint
Yeah,
application. You might be already working on microservices with
only two
endless endpoints. Just two endpoints and $1 billion
and
company.
$1 billion company, and that is the possibility that Beckn brings in. OETC is something that is already set up. That is, Nammayatri is there in Bangalore. How many of you have gone to Bangalore and used Nammayatri?
Even Yatri is there in Kochi.
Yeah, Yatri is there in Kochi, but
Yeah.
but it is just like lakhs of drivers are using Nammayatri. Right now, Uber is almost dead there because everyone is having a new application, Nammayatri, and the driver is also having a new application, Nammayatri. And what happened? You do the ride, you search for drivers, drivers become visible in that network. You do the transaction and then take the ride and pay the driver directly. There is no middleman. You are directly, so 30 percentage transaction to Uber or any other person, it is not there. And the reasonable charges are because Auto Drivers Association is the one who actually mobilizing auto drivers towards that, and it is owned by themselves, and they do not need to give 30 percentage charge to Uber or anything of that sort. And that has become a revolution. And even today, that is, you can show it directly. Like I was surprised to see like 1 lakh rides happen in a day, and then
Nice.
thousands of as of now, like if you look at the real time thing, there might be 5,000 rides happening in Namayatri in Bangalore, and within a very short
So
time,
they have crossed like 300 crores of transactions
300 crores of
in like
transactions. So
in less than a year.
getting towards a network in backend, any of this thing is creates a lot of opportunities, and that can be recreated in Kerala also. So understanding what it is, yeah.
Yeah.
Demonetization fueled UPI. Say that I can say it was like fuel to burn UPI everywhere. Namayatri also the Uber is not that productive enough in Bangalore. So and drivers are also not compensated enough. So there's this problem that we are trying to solve. But what is this digital economic transaction e-commerce problem that we are trying to solve?
Yeah. I think that is what we will be covering as part of the session. So we are not at there. So I think once we actually complete the entire presentation, I think you will get a fair amount of idea on that. But if still you're not clear, we'll actually discuss
And
more
then
about that.
one thing, this demonetization fueled UPA to get the network stronger. Okay, as of now, like 2000 got demonetized, right? But did we know that? Did we even care? Did we even care? Yeah, we don't care anymore. So that is the network impact that happened. As the network grows, so it will take some time for a network to grow and gain trust. And after that, if today SBI is telling like I am not going to be part of UPA network, what will happen to SBI bank? That the users will get to the other place where UPA is there, right? Even if PhonePe is telling like we are stopping UPA, so that is the population level impact. So the problem that it is trying to solve is, normally we try to solve in an aspiration level. That is, we market, we bring in people in. That is, as a marketer, you understand like we are creating a garden. There need to be a gardener. That is, who have to plant a new, water it, and do and take care of everything by ourselves when we run a platform or a company. But when it is a protocol, the world build applications for you, and they make it complete. Normally, like this protocol build only the necessary things, and the sufficient things is created by the network. PhonePe app or Google Pay app was not created by the UPA. It was created by Google and other people, right? So people come forward and build to complete that action. So they just create the protocol as a standard for everyone to use. So if you take care of, think about the HTTP protocol. So if that protocol was not there, what happened is there can be one web server, and when the web server has its own protocol, and it may also create a browser. So certain websites in that web server can be accessed only through one type of browser. If you go to another browser, you cannot see that website. That means that is a problem, right? Right. If you look at the website thing, if there was no HTTP protocol, standard protocol that was there, what happened is like browser, some website is available. If you want to get another website, you have to go to another browser. right?
Yeah,
That is not there today. But in e-commerce, it is there. If you want to do certain things, you need to go to one e-commerce website. For other things, you have to go to another website. You to other website. So interoperability is not there. That is the problem that Beckn is trying to solve.
No, okay. Yeah, let me just try to explain that. Okay, given that you are from marketing, right? See, what Google is trying to do is that Google is not interoperable. It has actually scraped all the data through crawlers and everything, and has actually created an index. And do you think that the entire list of Amazon catalog is there with Google? No.
Yeah, Google shows
You can
only the ones who has paid them to advertise, not everything in the network. There might be something that is much
no.
cheaper, which might be available for me, but
Google.
Google doesn't show that because they didn't pay it. Yeah.
Yeah, one more thing, Google cannot index something is actually protected using a password. You know that, right? Only what is open can be indexed. And one other problem is that, okay, so that is what we have to start thinking differently. Okay, we might think that Google has solved this problem. No, not exactly, right? So it is giving you kind of, it will allow you to do some certain amount of discovery. Okay, but after discovering the product, can you purchase it from Google? No, I mean, I'm saying that if you actually have a product which is displayed from Amazon, can you purchase it from Google? Yeah. So you have to go to the platform still to purchase it. So in the world of backend, if you look at the Internet Explorer, right? Okay, I'm going to a website and I have another link on that particular blog which redirects you to some other website. Do you have to switch between browsers? No. You don't need to, right? The entire internet, you can browse it on one click. Assuming if it was a platform, what happens? Okay, Microsoft will say that, okay, I will give you access to 10,000 websites. Rest 20,000, 10,000 website you have to access in Chrome. That is a platform way of thinking. That is how the entire commerce is happening right now. If you have a product, Google will give you that discovery, okay, and it will say that, okay, now you have to subscribe to that particular platform. You have to register yourself, then only you will be able to do the transaction. What Beckn is trying to solve is that you should be able to discover any service, any commerce service. It is nothing but, it's not only about a retail product. It can be a ride hailing, Uber service, or it can be a doctor appointments, it can be a course. So whatever you see, it can be even a menu, what Swiggy is offering. You can discover that service from any platform or any application, and you can actually purchase and do an order from the same platform itself. Do the entire process. It's not only discovery. We are talking about discovery, ordering, fulfillment, and post fulfillment. This is
Yeah.
what mostly happens in a platform.
Yeah, we will get towards that. I just want everyone to have those type of questions, yeah, before listening to the rest of the session. Because else what happened is like that is the initial thing itself. If we cannot digest or if we do not have any questions on that, we will not be able to understand anything what he is able to tell next.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
so right now that
I
is
think
the
I think just one more thing,
yeah.
regarding, since you're from marketing, right? So how is it really going to solve your problem, right? So what happens is that, see, if you look at Swiggy, where are they spending all the money? On marketing, right? Marketing. And what is the reason? They actually wanted to get onboard users, right? Okay, so in this network, what happens is that, okay, if you actually list a product, right? Somebody, some other application is actually going to discover that product in an open network. So you don't need to worry about that. That application already has users. So you don't need to spend money on marketing.
There is a seller side as well as a provider side. If you are a seller, selling to the customer, and you can see like in UPA there is like the transactions happen at the phone pay end, and then actual transaction happen at the back end, right? There is a back end where the banks provide that support. So similarly, separating these concerns, and each person can focus on what they are good at. So if you are selling certain things, you just I am making it available in the network. You just sell. You are providing the caps to the network. Somebody else will build like PhonePe or Google Pay. Somebody else will build the application that sells cap, and they send the transaction, and then they will be one who might be marketing. You can also have your own marketing front end also. So it is not like you do not have any marketing there. That is marketing. There is still scope for marketing for each front end app. It can be, but marginal cost of marketing have to get towards zero. That is the ultimate aim. Like anything, anywhere, discoverable. It is.
So yeah, in the coming slides
You
we
can
will
get
be
to it.
covering all of these things. So when we talk about
Now we should start asking questions. Okay.
yeah, so when we talk about protocols, right? So I think Deepu mentioned about verbs and nouns and other things, right? So how do we? So we can't actually just go ahead and build a protocol. You need to see a pattern, right? In HTTP there is a pattern. There is like this get is there, the post request is there, put is delete. So all of these things actually makes a protocol, right? Even with respect to UPI also it is right. There is a check balance, there is a transfer, all of these things. So if you look at a commerce transaction, if you actually wanted to really build a protocol, you need to understand what is the life cycle of that commerce transaction, right? So if you look at a commerce transaction, always starts with the discovery. It's always start with the discovery. You actually search for a particular product. You go to Amazon, you search for a product. You go to Uber, what you do? You basically search for a ride. You go to Practo, what you do? You search for a doctor. So everything actually starts with the discovery. Now, after discovery, what you do? You basically review the particular product, and if the service is suitable, you place an order. So next, after discovery, the ordering phase starts. Then after ordering, what happens? The fulfillment starts. The fulfillment means the delivery of that particular service. If it's a Uber, the cab will come and pick you up, right, and drop you to the destination. If it's a retail product, somebody is going to deliver the product at your doorstep, right? If it's a doctor consultation, the fulfillment, you go to the doctor uh, based on the time slot, and you get the consultation. So after fulfillment, assuming if there is a problem with the fulfillment, okay, then in post fulfillment you basically rate, assuming the service was good, you basically rate the service, right? You provide a 5 star or a 3 star, whatever it is, and assuming if you have a complaint, you raise a grievance, right? So this is the normal cycle of any commerce transaction. You basically use Uber, you use Practo, use Amazon, Flipkart, Swiggy. It actually goes through these process. So using this process is where the protocol has been derived, right? The protocol actually goes through these phases. We call it as DOFP: discovery, ordering, fulfillment, and post fulfillment. Okay. So and what we have done is that for each of these phases, there are set of endpoints which has been defined. So we'll be covering that in the technical architecture discussion. But as such, Beckn is all about discovery, ordering, fulfillment, and post fulfillment. So any particular service which actually factors into this scenario, right? Discovery, ordering, fulfillment, post fulfillment, you will be able to include in part of the backend. It's not necessary that every time you have to do a discovery, ordering, fulfillment, post fulfillment, but any one of these spaces, if you wanted to, if you can include it, then it can be backendized. Okay. So we discussed about all of these analogies, right? So now what is a backend protocol as such? Backend protocol is nothing but a specification. So when we say specification, it is just a blueprint. It exactly tells you HTTP is a blueprint. It tells you that, oh, you have to implement get request, you have to implement a put request, you have to implement a post request, and that is what the browser has implemented. So when you go to and type www.google.com, it might actually just send you a maybe a get request, right? Okay, now you type something on the search bar and you click search, it will send you a post request, right? So since browser has implemented all of these things, now it is HTTP compliant. Now on the web server, the same thing. When you get a get request, it knows how to process it and send the response back. So backend protocol is again a specification which clearly defines all of these discovery, ordering, fulfillment, and post fulfillment. So each one of these phases has a set of endpoints, very similar to what we have in HTTP or SMTP. Okay, so if you look at the specification, it's not something very big. Okay, it might be like 5 or 6 pages of specification. That's it. Okay, but this thought process, the societal way of thinking, and that is what makes it a different thing. Okay, so if you look at this diagram, right, we have platforms on one side, and we are trying to visualize the same platforms how it will be in a backend environment. So if you look at Uber, what it has is it has set of users, and it has set of drivers. Now, if you look at the Uber application, there is a uh, driver application is there, and there is a consumer application, right? What we use is actually the consumer application, and the drivers use a different application called as a driver application, and they get onboarded onto that platform using the driver application, and we get onboarded using the consumer application. Now, if you have to decouple Beckn, sorry, maybe Uber, and try to build a Beckn network using Uber. So this is how it will look like. So what has to be done is the consumer platform, which is the actual user application. Okay, that will be, so this is a maybe this is more of a monolithic application, even though you have two different interfaces, but it actually talks to the same backend services. In the case of an Uber, right, both of them are actually talking to the same backend application with a set of endpoints. Now, if you have to beckonize this, you will have to decouple the entire application, the monolithic application, into two parts, right? So you will have a separate consumer application, and then you will have a separate driver application. Okay, then you implement a set of endpoints in each one of these applications, like a browser and a web server. What is there in both of them? HTTP protocol is there, and using that it actually talks. So similarly, we will actually implement on the consumer side of the application. You will beckonify it with a set of endpoints. We'll be covering all of these things, and on the driver side of the application, you will beckonify it, right? So drivers will be on this side, and the consumers will be on the other side. Assuming that, okay, this Echo Taxi or Ola, right, maybe again does the same thing. So they actually decouple their what is it, the consumer application and the driver application, and beckonify that. Now what happens is that you will have two consumer applications. One is Ola and other is Uber. Let's just assume that, and you will have two driver applications, right? One is Ola driver application, other is Uber driver application.
What are we trying to solve here? I mean, both applications and this network does the same thing, right?
No, that is what I'm trying to tell you about, right? So see here, if you look at, these are two independent platforms, right? Like, let's assume Uber is there and there is Ola. Okay, are you able to visualize what I'm saying?
This part is okay, but I don't understand that.
No, yeah, I'll come to that. It's not completed yet. Now in this case, in this, right, it is a siloed application. Uber is there and Ola is there, right? So now, yeah, it is two parallel. Assuming that if you are not getting an Uber driver, what will you do? You will actually switch to Ola, right? You need to have two applications on your mobile, correct? In the same case here, you still have two applications here, and you still have two driver applications here, and it is connected to a open network. It's connected to an open network. So whatever you see on the backend here is actually the open network part. Now,
No, I thought
maybe
it was one application that we
no, it is not one app.
can be multiple.
I can multiply that. That is what I said. Let's assume that this provider application is actually Uber. This provider application here is Ola. Okay. The consumer application, the first one is Uber and this one is Ola. Let's assume that. Okay. Now, assuming that I am actually there on this platform. Okay. Maybe on Uber, and you are actually on this platform. This platform may be Ola. Okay. Now maybe let's assume that he is actually on this platform as a driver on Ola, and yeah. So now what you try to do is that it is all interconnected. Now you actually look for a ride. What happens is that your ride request will come here and here. We both will get the request. Whoever is accepting first will take the ride. But is that possible in this network? It's not possible. The reason why this is possible is because it's an open network. So we'll come to this one, how we are actually trying to solve this problem from an architecture perspective. But I think okay.
Like, so the black nodes on the top represent different possible consumer-facing apps, and the black
This
nodes,
one, right? Yes,
yeah,
yeah,
and the black nodes at the bottom represent different like driver-facing apps.
yeah. Driver facing apps. So in this is actually in the case of a mobility.
So what do the red nodes represent?
No, red nodes. No, no, red nodes basically say that this is actually different. This can actually be maybe there can be multiple backend networks. You can actually interconnect. This just represents it's a network. That's it. Anybody has any questions on this? Or Mhm. Not exactly a marketplace. See, right now also you have a marketplace using Amazon. Amazon is a marketplace, right? But the problem with that marketplace, it's very limited. Yeah, everything together. Yeah. See here, we'll actually talk about this one. There is also a aspect to Beckn solving a problem statement using a in a very democratized, decentralized manner. So I'm not at got there. Okay, let me just finish this one. So if you look at this thing, right, I think if you look at the SMTP protocol, if you look at this, you are actually using an email client. You can use any email client. It does not matter, right? And I can actually use any email client. I can actually still send an email to you, correct? And I am actually, and we both can communicate each other. You can be on Gmail, I can be on Hotmail or Yahoo, and we still can talk to each other. So this problem is not something we are actually trying to solve this problem again and again. This model already exists. The only thing is that this model does not exist in a commerce environment. No, we are not worried about that, right? Ultimately, the objective over here is actually the disruption will happen. Like how UPI happened. Can any bank say that I will not be part of UPI? They will be out of business. The SBI was not willing, right? S Bank took up the initiative, and why is SBI there now? They can be out. So if you look at the largest network in the payments is actually the Visa, right? Visa and Mastercard is actually the largest network, and they don't do the kind of transaction which UPI is doing right now. They are actually a private network, and if you want to part of the network, you have to pay royalty to them, right? To get into that, they will actually put a 2.5% commission for every transaction which is paying, right? And they don't do the kind of transactions which UPI is doing. They don't do the kind of billions of transactions which UPI is doing right now. And more. So UPI, so it actually takes time. That is what. See, people who did not had to lose anything, right? There was for phone pay and all of these companies, there was nothing for them to lose. So they grabbed this opportunity and they became a $1 billion company. Paytm was behind the game because they thought that, okay, I will actually build a network using a wallet. Then UPI came and disrupted. So they were not willing to join the network. So it will actually take some time to be, and no, so this is not the end of the story. There are little more interesting things I wanted to actually, which is never possible in what Amazon or these kind of platform networks, right? You cannot even solve that kind of problems, which Beckn can solve it. And so I actually want to get there, so some interesting parts to it. So here, yes, to an extent, if you understand it, it's like no, because no, you can definitely, yes. See, especially if you look at the kind of products which you will be building is very similar to what you already have, like Amazon and other the services, the commerce transactions which happens. See what UPI, what Paytm and PhonePe is trying to solve is basically the payments, right? But what we are talking about is actually the commerce. The commerce is actually the entire economy. If you look at the $100 trillion economy around the world, is basically the commerce, the economy, the services which you are offering. Okay. So if you look at this thing and this thing, right? So what is changing here is actually you have a consumer app on the other side, then you have a backend protocol instead of the maybe the SMTP protocol, and then you have a set of provider application. These are actually two independent applications now able to talk to each other. So this provider application, which has a set of sellers, can actually talk to any one of these consumer applications. Any one of these consumer applications can actually discover all of these services which is being offered by these provider applications. through a backend network. So now if you look at, I have 10 products here, I have 10 products here, I have 10 products here. How many products will I see here? 30 products. All three will see 30 products each, right? So this is actually the power of open network. Come again? Ah, yeah, yeah. Uh, uh, No, they are charging. Okay, so if you look at it, right, if you to answer your question, what is the market share of Amazon right now? It would be like maybe 2%, 3% of the whole Indian market, right? Do you want to play a 2% marketplace maybe at $100 billion, or you want it to be a 10% of a $10 trillion market? Which is better?
Charge the sellers. Earlier you mentioned about sellers spending on marketing. So at that time they were not making any profit. Whatever income they were receiving, they were simply investigating on marketing, so that whoever that brand becomes established.
Yeah, you can still charge the sellers. That's not a problem. But what happens is that, I mean, why are they taking 30% commission? Because they have an operational cost, they have an acquisition cost of a customer. Because you have a, assuming you launch a new e-commerce, will you be able to drive customers to your e-commerce platform? You will not be able to. How much money you have to spend to just get one customer, and that is the cost which they are acquiring as 30%. In this kind of a network, there is no customer acquisition cost, because the customer is already there in the network. You just need to just include this product in the network. That's it.
Is the customer going to see which provider is giving this
Yes, yes, you will. Yeah, you will be able to see all of those. So that depends upon what kind of experience the consumer app is going to provide.
So there will be 30 items listed in the consumer app.
Yeah.
And how will the ranking work? I mean, who decides which comes at the top?
That all depends upon the consumer app. If you are building your consumer, you can actually decide what has to. So it is a see, we have to consider that. See, in the current case, right, who decide what has to appear in Google search? Google decides. Do you have an option? Even if you say that, assuming that if Google decide that I don't want to show your website, there is nothing you can do with it. Can you even go to the court? No. You cannot even complain to the government or any of these things, right? Because Google actually is a monopoly, and there is no way which you can actually stop Google. But assuming that, here the idea is that, let's just take example of a phone of UPI. How many apps are there? There are 20 plus UPI apps, right? If you do not like phone pay service, what will you do? You will switch to Google Pay. If you do not like Google Pay, you will switch to Bharat Pay. So it is a democratized, decentralized, democratized way of solving a problem. Okay, tomorrow if PhonePe goes bankrupt, there is nothing which is going to happen to UPI. UPI will still exist. Can if there is a assume there is a policy change. Okay, there is a relationship issue with US and India. There are chances that Google might stop their services. There are chances that Amazon will pull out, Uber will pull out. What will happen to the entire economy? Economy will go down. Correct? Do you think that some other Indian company can come and replace Amazon and Uber? No, it is not possible. But assuming that in UPI case, assuming Google Pay is there, okay, there is a policy change. Now Google Pay goes out of the market, what will happen to the Indian market? Nothing happens, because we already have a decentralized way of solving, decentralized, democratized way of solving the problem. Which means the UPI will still exist. You can't actually disrupt the UPI, because we have other apps where you can actually just migrate to that. And are you going to, what is the change? Your service are not interrupted. You are only changing the experience. You will get a different experience from Google Pay to a Phone Pay, correct?
So
So
platforms will still be spending on marketing their consumer app to take
no
their customers
consumer
to
no
those apps.
consumer apps are not owned by them. So here what will happen is that you will only be having one of the apps. You don't have both apps, consumer and provider app. You just need to be listed yourself on any provider app, correct? And you don't need to worry about the consumer app. because there are consumer apps which are available who has a bigger market share combined. If you look at the all of India will be in this network, right? And you will have a 1.45 billion users spread across multiple consumer apps, and every consumer app can actually discover your product.
But Amazon will want to have their products listed at the top, so they want to have that control. They should have the consumer app.
So okay, in such cases, what Amazon will do is, then Amazon will put their app into the network and they will market it. But then it is then Amazon is actually acquiring or maybe spending that amount, the total amount for marketing. Assuming, see, in today's world also you have to do the same thing. But can you beat Amazon still?
But
You cannot.
it's more of like if I am a like provider,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I'm going to list my products. I don't need to list it on all three apps.
Yes.
Being a unique provider, I just need to list it on one
One app.
application,
Yes.
which they which the customer can purchase.
Yes.
So it's my product which they list.
Yes.
It can be Amazon, it can be Flipkart, it can
It
be
can be
anyone
anything.
else.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
But it is their job to sell my product so that they
No.
can make money, right?
Yeah, yeah, even yeah, because there, because when you look at from this network, right, in most cases, all of these consumer apps are already existing apps which has a huge customer base.
Huh.
But, okay, that is how it is going to work. It's not like you actually be a new consumer app, right? So I think
But
we,
again, the problem which I see solved here is I don't need to individually go and post it on Flipkart and Amazon
yes, yes,
separately.
yeah,
I just need to post it once and it gets reflected on the other
it
platforms.
will be reflected. Yes.
So I think like for small, I mean for startups, I understand this as an opportunity. Like we are playing with Flipkart and Amazon, right? So tomorrow I want to start my own company, e-commerce platform. So I have to spend lakhs of rupees for marketing it.
Yes, yeah.
Instead, using this Beckn protocol, it's a big opportunity for me because my product is also listing along with Flipkart and Amazon in a different platform.
Yeah,
So
yes.
that's what I see as an opportunity.
Yeah,
Right?
so that yeah, that is what I think see we are actually talking only about Amazon, Flipkart, but that is not that is only 1% of the opportunity. We actually wanted to cover about a lot of other things. I wanted to showcase some real examples in energy, circular economy, in courses. A lot of there are it's not just a retail network which we have set up. There is a network in energy which we have set up. There is network in skilling which we have set up. There is a lot of opportunities everywhere. Okay, so I think we can actually pause the questions for some time and let's finish this off. Okay, I think so. This is the same thing what I explained earlier. So this is how the network will look like, right? So here there is no the one other thing is that the whatever the catalog which you are uploading to any seller platforms, it will be available across any buyer platform. Can be discovered on any buyer platform, and it's not only about discovery. You can actually discover and do a transaction also, which means the user on buyer platform one will be able to discover and purchase that particular product. He will be able to see the fulfillment of that particular product, and he will be able to do a post fulfillment also. Okay, and there is no intermediary. It is actually a only there is no intermediary over here, and it is all peer to peer communication which happens. So I think one other thing which I wanted to highlight here is that see this empower local and small business equitable access, right? So this is all about a democratized way of solving the problem. When we say democratized is that you listing in Amazon, there are a lot of people who are actually doing a lot of malpractices to, or maybe what happens is even in Google. I mean, even after listing your website, indexing everything, you still have to pay money to Google Ads to basically get your website up, right? There is no other option. And even maybe in Amazon also you have the same problem, right? It's not necessary that your product always comes up. You still have to spend money and boost it up. So here empowering means there might be a lot of platforms who is actually going to different types of experiences to the users on how to do a commerce transaction, how to do a discovery, and your product will actually is going to have an equitable access across, right? And not only that, if somebody is doing a malpractice, somebody is doing a manipulation, there are still other platforms which will help you out with, because you're not dependent on just one platform right now. So privacy by design, again, we'll actually talk more about this. because Amazon, Flipkart, you're giving all of your data to them. Okay, they Swiggy, you're giving all of the data. They exactly know what is your, so they exactly know what you eat, what you purchase, where is the delivery happening, all of those things. They also know what is the a food pattern of a specific location, what to sell, what not to sell. They can even, because even if you look at Zomato, they have huge amount of data. They decided to even start up with their own cloud kitchens, right? So what happens is that you can even, if they wanted, if they decide, they can actually disrupt the entire hotel industry. Amazon can do that. Amazon can actually start selling. If you know what is a product, they can actually still identify a suitable product and sell it under Amazon brand name. They are doing it.
But
So,
even in this protocol, they'll be still able to know, right, what sells in a particular
no, the
location.
data is distributed. If you purchase from one platform and you purchase tomorrow from a different platform or maybe from a different seller, what happens is that the data is still distributed across.
Still, the seller is getting that information,
A
right?
seller has to get that information because not everybody gets that information. Still, your information is still distributed across. It's not just staying in one platform, right? So what happens is that you purchase it from the seller. Okay, tomorrow from the same app you purchase from the seller will not have that information for the second purchase. But in a case of Amazon, you have no choice.
But
So
again,
you are actually accumulating that.
we are in that stage of data time, like we don't care whether Amazon don't care if they have that data or another person's data, right?
Yeah,
From a data perspective.
yeah, that's right. Yes. So let's move on. Okay. Um, yeah.
There's also, I mean, there's a buyer and a seller, but there's also some intermediaries like, like warehouses to store the product or people to deliver. Would that also be a separate app or would that be part of the seller's app?
No, that will be part of that. That is a separate logistics which you manage it, right? Because uh, that is not something which is managed by the seller app. So seller app in the sense that the seller has to manage, or the app, the platform who is providing that services will have to manage. That's outside of backend.
I mean, like Swiggy would have like, if you follow along the order tracking, right?
Uh-huh.
So it's like, I guess that would be the buyer app would somehow be able to connect to the protocol gateway knowing the
So we'll come to that. There is a track API which actually sends you that information back to this thing. Then you will be able to track everything. So now I think I actually explained you about, just to give you a small introduction about Beckn. So that has been done. Now this is more about the architecture part of Beckn. So how does a Beckn architecture look like? So there are four components in a Beckn application. So one is actually, we call it as a BAP application, which is Beckn Application Platform. And there is a BPV, which we call it as a Beckn Provider Platform. BAP is a consumer application. Okay, it is an independent application which is, it's not like a monolithic, it is actually independent decoupled application. And BPP is a provider application, which is a seller application. All the sellers gets onboarded onto the BPP, all the buyers gets onboarded onto the BPP application, which is the consumer app. Now in between we have two things, one is actually a gateway and other is a registry. So the purpose of registry is, and purpose of registry is basically to list down all the all the consumer and the provider applications. Because it's like if you create a domain name, it has to be registered with the DNS, right? Then only your website can be discovered. So similar to that, when you connect a buyer application or a seller application to the network, it has to be registered somewhere. Then only it is possible to be discovered. And gateway is just for broadcasting the request. So as I mentioned, BAP is nothing but a consumer application, and anybody can participate only as a consumer application. Assuming if you already have an app which has millions of users and you wanted to connect to maybe an ONDC or retail network or maybe a skilling network, and you want to give a different experience, right? You can actually participate as a BAP application. Right now, if you look at PhonePe is actually part of ONDC network, which means outside of the UPI services, they actually wanted to give e-commerce experience, which means they don't have any seller onboarded onto the PhonePe application or a Paytm application. They are connected to ONDC open network, retail network, and they are able to get all the inventory and show it. So it's a different experience they want to showcase. So examples of BAP applications I mentioned, it can be any provider application, any consumer application which has a huge number of users, right? So not necessary that it can be like any mobile application, any website. It can be even a tablet. It can be even any consumer facing application can be a BAP. Okay, BPP stands for Beckn Provider Platform, which is nothing but the seller application where all the sellers actually gets onboarded. So BPP capabilities are it's basically about you should be able to onboard any seller onto the platform. They should be able to upload. They should be able to provide fulfillment services. It should be able to provide post fulfillment services. It should be able to support and accept orders which are getting placed from the consumer application. So it can be any aggregator application like Redbus, Amazon, Practo, any of these things. So Beckn Gateway. So the primary purpose of Gateway is that we mentioned that there will be a set of consumer application, right? So I'll just go back, then you will understand. So this is how the application is that. How is this application going and talking to each one of these applications? So I'm actually on a maybe on a buyer application. I'm actually going there and actually searching for maybe biscuits, whatever it is. No, no. Centralized database is what we have in Amazon. This is not a centralized database. This is decentralized database. This is entirely decentralized. Yeah. So data shared. Yeah, that is what I'm going to explain, right? So what happens is that so there is a gateway in between. I'll actually 1 second. There is a. I don't know if I have a diagram here. No, I don't have it. Okay. So what happens is that there will be a gateway in between. Whenever the buyer actually searches for any item, it actually generates a backend request and it actually sends it to the gateway. Now what gateway will do is that gateway will check the registry, all the network, all the seller platforms. Okay, so assuming that all of these seller platforms are actually registered under a specific domain, which is nothing but retail, it will broadcast the request, the same request to this seller application, this seller application, and this seller application. Now all of them will get the request. All of them will process it. Okay, I have 10, it will say I have 10 catalogs. I have 10 catalogs, I have 10 catalogs. It will send this 10 catalogs to the buyer application. This will send 10 catalogs to this one, this will send. It will aggregate all the request responses and it will show. Yeah, we'll come to all of those things, right? Let's not try to solve every problem. Okay, but in general this is how it works. So that is the reason why we have a gateway and a registry. What gateway will do is that when you send out a request, the request will go to the backend. So gateway will actually check the registry, okay, because it needs to understand that there are these many seller applications, right? And it has to do a broadcasting, assuming that there are 100 sellers like this, all the 100 sellers will get the request. And each seller is actually assuming if that particular seller has that inventory, which happens. It's not, only the request broadcasting happens to the gateway. After that, it is actually a one-to-one communication. So now you understood how this aggregation happens. So the purpose of the network registry is basically to display all the consumer applications and all the seller applications. Yeah. So like DNS, you have to have a DNS, right? So what happens is that when you purchase the DNS, it actually goes to a DNS. So I mean, you purchase the domain name, it actually goes to a DNS, right? That has to be there. You have to do an IP address mapping. Then it also gets into a network registry, right? That is how that domain name is actually visible, right? The same thing. Whoever is running the network will actually run the gateway and registry, right? The other applications are actually connected. So here, if you look at the UPI also works the same thing. So there is a central registry with a list of banks, right? and the consumer applications are actually provided like by phone pay, paytm, and all of these things. So yeah, so registered onto the network is that so there will be a network. So what happens is like ONDC. ONDC is actually a company which has been set by Ministry of Commerce, right? So Ministry of Commerce, because that there has to be certain amount of trust if you want to build an open network. So that's a Section 8 not-for-profit organization which has come like NPCI, National Payments Corporation, which is running the UPI network. So similarly, another company has been set up which actually runs the network. They will own the gateway and registry. Okay, so they will own the registry. They will provide all the governance, all the policies related to how a network participant can get onboarded. So they will say that this participant has to follow these standards, right? Then they will be able to get onboarded. Okay, registry, yeah. So I think we discussed about the registry. It's basically that uh, you are actually making an entry, okay, saying that you are a consumer application. You are actually participating in so and so domain. There can be multiple domains uh, within the network. Like retail is one thing. There can be mobility. There can be skilling. So the multiple domains would be there because you can come again. No, no, not predefined set of domains. What I'm saying is, I mean, if you're participating in domain, you can actually. So if you look at the entire commerce network, there are multiple services available, right? If what Practo is doing is they're actually participating in healthcare domain. If you look at Coursera is participating in a skilling domain, or Udemy is participating in a skilling domain. That you cannot actually connect your retail. What happens is that then when you search for something, you will start getting courses. Retail application, yes, yeah.
Even if I simply register as a like application provider, even if I get the data from the customers, that itself is valuable to me, right? The transaction data which happens,
Hmm.
just if I get that data and I store it on my database, going forward I can make use of that data, right?
I mean, you're saying that you will connect some kind of a fake app and
No,
get no.
it doesn't need to be a fake app. You see, like my objective, my main product won't be the application. Suppose in my perspective, if I want to get into it, I can simply create an e-commerce application, list it, and get the APIs. But what I am looking forward is through that network, the amount of data and traffic that is being generated.
Uh-huh.
I can make use of that data to do data analysis.
No, but you will not get it. So open network by design, there is no centralized place by which you can actually. So like, can you capture HTTP data? It cannot.
So
HTTP
I
data
receive some
actually
data, right?
resides. No, what I'm trying to say is that if you look at HTTP data, right? HTTP data is there in the browser. It is there in the web server. But it is distributed. If I wanted to understand, or you want to understand how many HTTP transactions are happening in the internet, you can't get that data.
But I get an API request, right? Being a application lister, whenever a customer is searching for something, I all the providers they get an API request, right?
Now, all the providers will get an API request. Yes, they will get the request. Yes, that is correct. But that is where you have this network governance which is happening, right? Like ONDC or any of these players coming in. So if you try to just listen to that particular data to understand what a search is coming and other things, right? The network will not even allow try to do that, because you have to if you're participating, you have to participate for the entire transaction. That is why there is a governance body. You can connect it, but they will figure out and they will eject you from the network. So what are you simply sitting there and trying to do without providing any data, right, in responses back?
I just have a small clarification I want
Yeah.
to make about Beckn. It's not a bunch of different networks for different things like retail or healthcare or whatever. It is one big network where anyone can register anything, and then the protocol will connect you with the.
Yeah, yes, that is the paradigm what Beckn is going to build. So which means if you look at the entire $1 trillion economy which is happening, it is not just retail, right? It is all about the all economic transactions. It is you're spending money on a ride hailing. You're actually spending money on doctor appointment. You're actually purchasing a course. You're actually purchasing grocery items. You're doing retail. You're going to a restaurant eating food. So all of these are actually a commerce transaction. So all of these commerce transaction, assuming that you're actually bringing this entire offline economy to the internet and trying to build a decentralized open network. That is the paradigm maybe 10 years down the line what Beckn is going to build. So right now for retail, it is ONDC who is running it. So yeah, if you wanted, you can actually build your own private net. We have private networks, yes. So anybody who is interested, but see the problem with private networks so that if your competitors want to come there, you need to establish that trust, right? You cannot actually be simply creating a network just to capture data and all of those things. It will not work out. Nobody will join your network. So that is where the trust is always established with big governments and organizations and NGOs and not-for-profit companies who does not care about money, because the network, right, the people will make money, the network participants will make money, the consumer and the provider applications or seller applications will make money, but the network who is running and facilitating the network is not meant to make money. Like, come again? The infrastructure will be run by non-profit. Yes, like NPCI does not make money with UPI because it's a service.
Along with data science, I have an idea in mind.
Hmm.
Within AI or ML base, so that I can generate some valid results for the data which I receive. I can get that right.
Yeah, so data right now does not reside in the network. It actually resides in either the consumer app or it actually resides in the seller app. So you cannot get it unless they give you that data. Right? So you cannot actually do a real. The only thing what actually goes through the network is actually the search request. So you know that that is not PA. There is no PA.
Okay, so suppose one customer wants to make a purchase to that particular provider, only that customer detail will be passed.
Yes,
Yes.
yeah, yeah. It does not go through the network.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. Fine.
Okay. So coming back to Beckn APIs, right? As I mentioned, this is actually the spec part. So we have so I mentioned about the 4 different phases, right, which happens in a commerce transaction. One is the discovery, ordering, fulfillment, and post-fulfillment. So there are 10 endpoints which has been created, which actually gets divided into 4 phases. So discovery phase, there is one endpoint which is a search endpoint. There is one API which is a transaction API, which actually will have one endpoint which is a search endpoint. Okay, ordering will have select, init and confirm. Fulfillment will have status, update, track and cancel, and post fulfillment has rating and support. So you might see one is search and other is on search. Okay, so you have 2 apps. One is a consumer application, other is a provider application. Sorry, maybe the buyer application, right? Search is implemented on the buyer application. On search is implemented on the consumer application, because once the search request goes, you have to get a call back for the on search. The response comes back on the on search. That is why you have, for every corresponding action, you have a corresponding callback associated to it, right? Yes, normal REST APIs. Yes, UPI is a normal REST API specification. Yes, this is on top of HTTP.
Explain like some of the details of one of these specific endpoints.
Yeah, we'll come to that when I actually show the demo. I'll explain about. Okay, so I think now you're clear about the technical architecture. So it's actually a pretty simple thing. If you wanted to, what is it, Beckenify any of the applications, right? First thing, you have to decouple your consumer side and you have to decouple your seller side application, right? And then implement the transaction API, which actually has 10 endpoints. If you do that, you are actually a part of you are Beckenified your application and you connected an open network. Okay, so this is okay. I just wanted to explain about. So there are 4 networks which we have actually set up in India. 3 networks. No, 4 networks which we have set up in India. One is ONDC, Open Network Detail Commerce, which is purely for retail. So this is like, you can consider it as an kind of an Amazon. But Amazon is just one single platform. ONDC is actually an open network which has so many sellers and so many buyers, right, on scattered across a number of different applications, different buyer applications, seller applications, but all together combined, which actually has millions of buyers and sellers and millions of catalogs. We'll come to that. So this is actually a UA network, which is nothing but unified energy interface. Okay. So there are three participants here. One is Pulse Energy, then there is a Sheru, and there is Turno. I'll be showing a live demo of this one here, but we'll explain about what is the use case they are trying to solve here. So you know that when it comes to EV charging, right, one of the primary problems with EV charging is that if I go to a charging station, I can't just go and charge it. I need to download the app. I need to book that particular slot. Then I have to do a charging. If I go to KSCB, I have to download the KSCB app to do the charging. Tomorrow, if I take my vehicle to Bangalore and I go to a Bestcom charger, I cannot use KSCB charger to app to basically do the charging of my vehicle. I have to download Bestcom app and then I have to get onboarded onto that particular platform. Then only I'll be able to do the charging. That, yeah. So and one other problem is that assuming if you have a charger next to your station, maybe next to your house, right? And you are regularly using KCB, will you be able to discover that charging station? You will not be able to, because KCB will give you only KCB charging stations. You cannot discover that. And then assuming you discover somehow, maybe through Google, you go there, what it will do? It will ask you to download their app. Then using that app only, you will be able to do the charge. Otherwise, it will not work out.
Are there any hardware differences in the way the charging works, or is it?
No, it's not about the hardware. They actually follow different protocols, and they are onboarded onto their thing, because what happens is that whatever, see, that is one of the problems we are actually trying to solve. So as such, whenever, so what is the main reason is vendor lock-in. Whoever has actually provided that chargers, right, the charging equipment, they also come with a charge with a software associated to that, and you can only use that software along with that charge. So that is the reason why it is not interoperable. Okay, now what Pulse Energy is trying to solve is that we have actually created a unified energy interface network, open network using Beckn. So Pulse is aggregating all of these charging stations. Okay, all of these charging stations onto their network and charges onto their network, which means now if I use Pulse Energy, it is like Amazon. So what happens, they have actually aggregated all the KCB charging stations and charges onto their network, all the Bestcom. So using one particular application, you will be able to do it. Now since they have actually beckonized, assuming there is another application like Pulse Energy, which is actually part of the network, you will be able to discover any charging station using the Beckn protocol, very similar to you discovering a product from Pulse Energy interface, you consumer and application, which is nothing but a WhatsApp bot. Okay, so this is about discovery of charging stations using Beckn. Okay, now what we have is that we have Sheru and we have Turno. Okay, so they are also part of the network. So what Sheru is doing is that they are actually aggregating batteries from Turno, and they are actually uploading. So what they have a solar unit. It's like a microgrid. They aggregate microgrids. So whatever grid which you have at home, right? Assume that you have a solar grid, and you have it set it up. It's a small microgrid. So if you aggregate the microgrids, you will have a combined number of units which you can actually upload it to the grid. But you cannot, it's not about just generating a lot of units from the grid, right? You should also have enough demand to basically supply it back to the grid, because KZB will not just allow you to maybe upload like 1,000 units or 1 megawatt or 100 megawatt of units directly into their grid, because the entire grid will become imbalanced, because as soon as the units are uploaded, it has to be consumed, right? So now what happens is that here what we are trying to solve is that whenever somebody is trying to discover a charging station, we'll give two options. One option will say that, okay, do you want to do a normal charging or you want to do a green energy charging? Now if the user selects a green energy charging, what happens is that he goes to a charging station, there is not actual green energy is not there. He actually connects to the grid, he basically connects to the grid and starts he consumes 10 units, but the information gets transmitted to Sheru, and Sheru will upload those many units from their network to the grid. So that discoverability is happening over Beckn. That demand of 10 units which has been generated over here is actually discovered by Sheru and uploads it to the grid. So you're reconciling it, right? You don't need to be part of the same grid. They might be in Bangalore, this guy might be in somewhere else or different part of Karnataka, right? Okay, what? So okay, in order for them to upload those many 10 units which has been consumed by this guy to the network, what he needs supply. So this guy is aggregating all the batteries. Okay, so this guy will say, Sheru will say, okay, I have discovered there is a demand for 10 units. You give me 10 units of supply to me. So I will upload it. So this guy has a as an inverter, okay, and what he does is that his inverter is actually connected to his battery, but he has to get permission from him to basically upload those 10 units. So he will actually send a request to him over backend and say that okay, I have a 10 units of demand, do you have 10 units of supply for me? So he says that acknowledge them, and he will get 10 units of supply from him, and he will connect his inverter back to the grid. So what happens is that the units gets uploaded back, and this guy actual consumption is happening at this end.
Was the technology already there, or they discovered this for the use case?
Yes. So over backend. So what has happened? This is not something which is connected. These are three different applications. Okay, now all of these applications are actually talking to each other over backend.
No, my question was, this is already done.
Yeah?
This is already done.
It is already done. Yes, I actually want to show a real demo of this one. We have something which is set up this network in Bangalore.
So
Yeah. Come again? Yeah, it might be different places, but if you look at maybe in Kerala, there is only one provider. If you look at all of Karnataka, there is one. You can actually just connect all of Karnataka and implement this. All of Kerala, you can do it because whether I am actually any charging station, right, which is set up is anyway going to the electricity is going to come from KCB. It is not going to come from somebody else, right? Even I am said even if it's a different company other than KCB, you have to still consume from KCB, correct? But I can be a microgrid generating my own energy not from KCB. But whatever energy which I have generated, how will I actually upload it unless there is a demand for it? So in your house, it is not a problem. The reason is because you are actually generating and you are consuming it. So it's not a problem. There is the balance is actually maintained. It's very small units which actually gets uploaded, right? Even if there is a shortage in demand, correct? But still, but assuming that you are aggregating large amounts of units through microgrids, like a megawatt kind of units, you can't upload it to KC. KC will not allow you to do that because because the biggest problem with energy if you have energy, it has to be consumed immediately. You cannot actually just go and store it, right? Other than batteries, right? So if the electricity is getting generated in Idiki, you have to immediately consume it. It's not that you can actually just store it and keep it for tomorrow. No.
So in the previous examples, you seem to have seller apps and like
Yes.
buyer apps.
Yes.
Here it seems like there's more than just that two types.
Yes.
Like
Yeah. No, it is the same. Here, what happens is that they have a seller app and a buyer app, right? No, it's not a supply chain management. See, the reason I took up this example is that I actually want to give a different perspective. Beckn is not only about retail. It can be a lot of other things.
so is it that like these are like different domains, each of which have a buyer and seller? Is
Yes,
that the
no. So here, I'll tell you here. What happens is that in the first case, right, Pulse Energy actually has two applications. Okay, there is a consumer application which you are actually using to discover a charging station and do the charging. So that is a consumer app, that is a BAP consumer application. There is another app through which they are actually onboarding the chargers. So that's a buy seller application. Okay, so there are two. There is one consumer application and seller application on Pulse Energy side. Now what is happening is that this guy is actually generating his demand of green energy through his app. Okay. Now what is happening? So he is actually becoming a consumer app. Now what is happening is that after that, the whatever demand which is generated, it is there. Now this guy is actually polling the network to see if there is a demand generated. Now this guy is becoming a consumer. This is actually becoming a seller now. He's selling the demand.
So the charging stations are providers for people who want charging, but consumers for the energy that they need to provide that charging.
Come again?
So like the charging stations are providers and consumers.
Yeah,
They're-
charging stations are providers, right? The users who are actually using the car, right? They are actually the consumers. So they are the consumers. Using that app, you are actually generating a demand. Now, what is happening is that for this guy, if he want to upload the information, the units back to the network, right? What he has to do? He has to become. He will be the consumer of that demand. So what happens is that this guy becomes a provider of that demand, and this is the consumer of that demand. He plays a so after the first thing happens, the charging happens. What happens is that he becomes a provider of the demand. Correct? He becomes a provider of the demand, and this guy becomes
the
a
demand
consumer
of
of the demand.
energy.
A demand of the energy, yeah. So because what is this guy offering? This guy has a microgrid, and I have 100 units of energy with me stored in my battery. Okay, now unless I find a consumer, not a consumer, not a,
He's like a provider.
no, no, yeah, provider.
Is it a
It's not possible that I can actually upload it to the grid.
It's a little confusing for me because you're saying he's a consumer of the demand, but he's consuming the demand by providing energy. So he's a
Yes,
provider of
yeah,
the energy.
yeah, yes. So this guy actually provides the demand to this guy, and he consumes that demand. And after that, what happens is that this guy actually become a sorry. So when it actually comes to this one, this guy actually needs a supply. So who actually becomes, so this becomes the provider of the supply. He becomes the consumer. He becomes the consumer of the demand and the supply at the same time. So he's acting two ways. Okay, and then he uploads it. So this guy becomes a provider, this guy becomes a provider, and this becomes a consumer. Okay, and this guy acts as both consumer and supplier.
In an economics perspective, this is mostly like a trading between companies, sorry, countries. Like India do the import and export to China and USA, mostly like that kind of network.
Yeah, yes. So this is how economic transactions happen even on the internet, right? And using that economic flow is actually the Beckn protocol has been built. So any anything which you can imagine with respect to an economic transaction, you can actually put inside Beckn. Okay, so okay, um, so this is an energy ecosystem, right? Okay, this is one final thing which I actually wanted to explain, where you might think that okay, there is a retail, there is energy, there is courses, there is this thing. What happens if you have a large network with all of these things? You have independent network, but all of these networks are interconnected. Okay, so I'll give you an example here. Semi, you want to give an experience, okay, where okay, let's take example of Swiggy, right? Swiggy, the restaurant owner, right? Restaurant owner actually, what he's selling is actually is uploading all of his catalogs, right? Now, what he want to do is that he actually wanted to maybe upgrade the skills of his cook or chef, right? So he can actually discover courses for his cook on the same platform. He can actually discover, assume that he want to do a renovation. Now he can actually discover loans on the same platform. Loan is a service which is coming from the bank. He does not need to switch between apps. Assuming he actually wanted to hire one more cook, he can actually post a job in the same app, which will be discovered by some other application, and you will be able to get a notification for it. So just look at the kind of experience, interconnected experience, which is possible on when you have all of these services available on the same network. The app itself can actually provide all of these services in a seamless experience manner. Like like one more example, if I want to give you, like you have a driver app, okay, okay, I'm a basically maybe Uber driver, and I'm using an electric vehicle. Okay, maybe I'm using a normal vehicle. Now I want to upgrade. What I need a loan. So the driver app will actually give you all the loans which is available in the network. Okay. No, here, the very idea here is that when you look at platforms, right, like you have Uber, you have Swiggy, you have loan platforms, you have maybe Amazon, all of these things. These are siloed. Now, assuming that all of this actually becomes backend, you have the entire service available and you can actually give a seamless experience. Seamless experience means, let me just finish this, means the Uber driver right now, what happens if he wanted to upgrade his car to an EV car, right? What he has to do? He will have to go to some bank application or a platform to discover all the loans available. Assuming that the loan service is actually available within the network, from the same driver application, he can actually basically discover all the loans available across all the banks. Okay, and not only that, the app already knows what is the earning potential. So because of that, he can actually curate the list of loans what is eligible for. Okay, and he can instantly apply, and the bank will, since the data is already there with the driver application or with Uber or whatever it is, he can actually immediately give a consent to the bank saying that okay, this is the earning potential, and based on that the bank can actually even provide a loan, because this is actually real time on demand data. It's not about you go and ITR filing and you provide. If you do it on another platform, these are the problems. Okay, now assuming he purchases it, now what happens? He needs a charging station. He want to discover a charging station. The same driver app will can give you that. Why do you want to connect to download and install another charging or maybe another application, and over there you do it, and not only that, again the same problem. One charging maybe app will actually solve the problem, because again you have this, you download KCB, now you go to Bestcom, you download another thing, or this guy is actually traveling across India. How many apps you will have? Right? No, then again another thing is that and you actually wanted to maybe upskill yourself, so you can discover your own courses based on your skills. Maybe something like there is a new car which is there and you want to learn something about driving, or you wanted to go for maybe heavy vehicle driving, whatever it is, you can discover those services also on the same platform.
Yes, earlier you said like
It's a combination of different services and experience which you can actually build and give different types of service, different types of experience, which is never possible in a siloed application. That is opportunity you get it. Ah,
See, we have, as you said, we have a network, right? So we have 1050 e-commerce websites.
yes.
We have maybe insurance provider websites. So now I am searching for a particular item.
Mm.
Okay. So how Beckn works is like it will send notification to
All the
app.
providers, yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
So what he's asking is like, will it send request to?
Hmm.
See, suppose I am searching for a T-shirt.
Yes.
No, will it send a request to that insurance providing?
No, it will not send the request.
How it understands?
No,
Like,
that is where basically in the backend you have actions and verbs and other things, right? So domain is one of the parameters. So you are actually registered for a specific domain. Now, if your app wanted to give this kind of experience, what I said, okay, maybe you wanted to give loan provider, so you have to register your app under that domain as well.
okay.
So what happens is that, and you have to give that experience. So the app knows that you are actually searching for an insurance.
So maybe in the request itself, I have to mention the category. I mean, in the
Yeah,
registry, I mentioned like this app is an e-commerce website.
yes.
Okay. Now in the request, I have to mention
Yeah,
the
so yeah, the request is nothing but a schema,
yeah
right? In the schema, what you populate in the schema is the payload.
yeah
Okay, the
yeah.
payload will say exactly. So payload has. So if you look at the schema has something called as an action.
Mhm.
What will be the action? Is it going to be a search or is it going to be a select? What it
Mhm.
is? It will also contain a domain for
Okay.
that this request. So domain will say it is a retail. So
Okay.
what happens is it will go only to the all the e-commerce providers,
Cool.
right?
No.
Now assuming that the same application want to send a request for a different domain, maybe for insurance or a loan.
Mm-hmm.
So it will change the domain to insurance. So which means you don't need to change anything on the back end, just keep changing the payload.
Ah, okay.
You don't need to select. Yeah, I mean that experience will be there in the app, where if you select the category for insurance, the app will automatically send it. So which means without changing anything, any infrastructure, any code, just change the payload. What?
Like, suppose I want an urgent doctor's appointment.
10 minutes.
Huh.
Okay.
Suppose I want an urgent doctor's appointment.
Uh,
I, I won't be going through the application like filtering all of these different filters and all. I need an urgent doctor appointment. Okay. So in that perspective, are we using one application or multiple applications? How many?
See, it depends upon, see, in going forward, the very demand, right, is actually going to be the kind of experience that app is going to provide. Assuming that there are hundreds of millions of app which is connected to the network, how will you choose the app? Based on the experience that app is going to provide.
Is this something that would be theoretically possible? Let's say we had some kind of medical app that was like, maybe stuff like finding an ambulance or like creating appointments or whatever, and then you find out that okay, this patient has like a critical condition and they need to get to the hospital as soon as possible, but like an ambulance won't get there in time. Could it be possible using backend to then using that app connect to like something like
Yes, yes,
Uber
yes.
or something and
Yeah,
then directly?
you can basically, even an IoT device can actually act like a BAP, consumer app.
Hmm.
Okay, so IoT, assuming that you have your pacemaker connected, right? Assuming you see there is a problem. So pacemaker now, if it's connected to an open network, it can actually discover all the services. It can actually broadcast saying that, oh, this ambulance is required, the doctor is required.
You can have all these different services connected
Yes.
together to provide a
Yes,
single.
yeah, yes, it is possible, very much possible. So if you look at, I'll just give one more example, Make My Trip. What they have done is that you will get option of train booking, maybe flight booking, then tourist packages, all of these things. What have they done is that they have basically integrated with multiple providers, multiple applications to give you that experience, right? So it's a super app. Now tomorrow, if all of these networks exist and and you wanted to actually get this kind of an experience, right? What you might actually say that, oh, I have 1 lakh budget for travel, okay, and I want to go to so and so destination. You can actually just give that information to the website or to an AI. It will actually discover the entire set of services, curate and give you a final list. That is not possible right now. So going forward, once the entire backend is in place globally, what happens is that the entire economic transactions happen, the entire network is discoverable online. And on top of that, it is all about the different types of experiences combined. So you say that, okay, I need a 1 lakh. Okay, because now what happens if you have a 1 lakh budget, what you do is that you have to search 100 website to see, I want to get a flight for 20,000 rupees, which is not required. Now, even if you give that information ChatGPT might actually be able to give you search the entire network and give you what is curated. No network. Okay. See, network is built on whatever. I mean, it's nothing. It can be anything, any tech stack. It does not need to be anything because you are actually. This is a spec. You can use your application. Assume that you have a JavaScript application. You just implement the spec on that. Okay, one more thing I wanted to tell you is that, like, just a small example. Like, you have an ONDC network, right? Now, if you look at Amazon, the way they are doing, they're providing the 360-degree support in terms of the fulfillment, post fulfillment, everything. And in terms of ONDC, what the way it works is that you have set of retailer applications which is connected to the network. You have set of consumer applications like phone pay, Paytm connected, and you have set of like e-commerce applications connected on the seller side. Now, if you want to look at the entire fulfillment, post fulfillment, everything, there is set of logistics and supply also connected to that. So what happens is that whenever you go to phone pay or Paytm and discover something, Okay, it will send a broadcast requested to all of the retail e-commerce application which is connected, the buyer side, seller side applications. Now, once the order is confirmed, it will do a broadcast to all the supply and logistic application which is connected. Maybe DDDC, courier, post office, all of this. Whoever actually accepts that order, right, will be doing the fulfillment. You don't need an e-commerce application actually doing a fulfillment like Amazon. Hmm? No, it's not a process. No, you have, see, you can have a,
Connecting all of that, bringing it all into one picture, and like a wheel, and the thing is spinning.
yeah, see, this is, yeah, see, these are different services which can be part of that. If you build a platform, tomorrow you build an e-commerce platform, you have to onboard all of these things only. You have to give that 360-degree service, right? So these 360-degree services can be distributed in an open network, and all of these services talking on the same platform, which means you will basically have a consumer application where you're purchasing, but what are the same fulfillment is done by some other application, some other service provider who does only this. Okay, I actually wanted to show that demo also. Okay, can we move on to the demo? Okay, okay, and then one more thing. Okay, maybe just a small explanation. Okay, ONDC is not the only network we have. Okay, the mobility network, which is the Namayatri and the Yatri app, which is there in Kochi. Kochi was the first pilot project for Beckn. Okay, through Namayatri, through Yatri, which was built by JustPay. JustPay is actually a fintech company who has no experience in mobility. They have actually built a mobility application very similar to Uber. Okay, and the first pilot project happened in Kochi, and then they moved to Bangalore, and it was a huge success. Kochi was not that a success because of the population and people not using too much of apps. So, yeah, right. In Bangalore, it was an instant success, and in less than a year, they crossed 300 transactions, 300 crores worth of transactions. And do you know what they did was that now they are actually when you do a transaction or when you do a ride hailing on Namayatri, the actual amount is paid directly to the driver. If it's a 200 rupees of ride, the 200 rupees directly goes to the driver. Okay, there is no commission in between. What they charge is that for the service which they are providing, they are charging 25 rupees from each driver for using that platform. And because of this disruption, Uber has changed their policy and they have started charging 25 rupees from this per day. Okay, and they have reduced the commission to 5% now. See the impact, how we are disrupting it. Because with zero marketing, Namayatri was able to cross 300. And if you look at the numbers, right? This, but it's a no. Namayatri is a provider, but right now there are not multiple players there. The multiple players are just emerging, but they are actually a network provider with both buyer and seller application on the same side. It's basically the consumer and the rider application. Sorry, rider and the driver application connected through Beckn. Yeah, they are kind of running. They were running a separate network, but they are right now on ONDC. So if you look at 23 lakh registered users, 1 lakh registered drivers, see more than a crore completed rides, right? So the total number of searches, right? 0% commission. And now what we are doing is that we are actually trying to build a multi-model on top of it, extending to buses and metros and trying to do a last mile, first mile, last mile, which means after some time, right, we are actually doing a pilot, which means if I actually wanted to go from point A to point B, right, I will get two options. One is that from point A to point B, directly taking a taxi or a auto, or from point A to point B through a metro, for covering first mile and last mile using a Uber or maybe auto, right? Okay, so okay, so these networks are only, we are not opening up networks only in India. We are actually doing networks across the globe. We have set up a skilling network in Latin America. There are champions. Then in Gambia, we are actually doing a hyper local retail. Then Industry 4.0 in Germany. then Amsterdam sustainability related and hyper local mobility and commerce. Uh, yeah, so these are some of the different open networks, which pilot projects which you are actually working. So maybe 5 years, 10 years down the line, if you look at the entire paradigm, it is going to be a commerce connected network all over the world. Okay, yeah, before coming to this one, right, I actually wanted to showcase you um, the actual demo. One second. Okay, 1 second. Okay. Okay, so this is the pulse energy. We are talking about the UI demo, right? Actually, want to do a live demo of this one. So they have created a WhatsApp bot. It's a WhatsApp, right? So this is their the user application, and they have this provider application. They have aggregated all the corresponding charging stations, right? So I'm actually doing a hire right now. Okay, it is asking me to share the location. For demo purpose, it will be Bangalore, but we'll actually just so I've shared my location. Okay, location has been confirmed. Okay, it is asking me to choose what type of vehicle it is. I'm choosing four-wheeler. So it has collected all the information right now. Okay, using this information, it will generate a backend request. Okay, now once this information is generated, it will actually fire the request to this one. So we'll actually see that a search request getting going out right now to the network. So you can't actually see it, but I'm just okay. So it has collected all the information. Now, if you look at it, it's actually searching for charges, right? So it is firing a backend request onto the network, right? And it is and you have actually got the list of responses, list of charges. Okay. So these are the charges which are available, right? So I am actually given an option. Okay, there are multiple charges available. If you look at it, this is actually green charging option available. Okay, I'm selecting the green charging option available. Okay, send. Now I'm basically starting the ordering phase now. So discovery is completed. I've made the selection. Now we are actually in the ordering phase. So it's saying I've selected a green charger now. Okay. So it is telling me, okay, 1 second, let it come there. Sorry. Okay, I think, oh, sorry. Oh, I think she actually joined that call. 1 second. Yeah. Okay. This is, okay, 1 second. I think I actually lost that. 1 second. Okay, so here you are actually seeing two options now since you have selected, right? So it is saying that 15 rupees per unit if you're actually going with a normal charging option. If I'm selecting green charging option, I'm actually getting a 13 rupees per unit. This is basically to generate the demand. Okay, now I'm selecting 13 rupees unit and selecting a green charge. Okay, now it's asking, okay, how many units? Okay, so I'm saying maybe for 10 rupees I want to do a charging, right? Okay, it's asking me to pay that 10 rupees using a link. Just saying pay using link. Okay, it's giving me the payment link. Okay, I'm not making a payment, but I'll actually show you what happens. So now there is a certain amount of units, 2 units of demand has been generated right now. Okay, now let's see how Share is going to identify that demand on the network. So I think I just need to stop sharing from here. Okay. So this is one of our experience center which we have set up. Okay, whatever I talked about Beckn and other things, right? If you want to maybe understand in depth about some of the Beckn experiences, use cases. So this is one of the experience center we have set up. If you come here, you will be able to experience the different possibilities of Beckn, right? So we'll keep adding. This is what my engineering team actually does. So uh, I'm just coming here and talking about spec and other things. But if you want to really experience how does a real Beckn works, open network works, you wanted to think through, or you want to understand what are the different possibilities, this is one of the places. So here I come here. Okay, unified energy interface. Okay, so here now whatever is the WhatsApp is what I showed you, right? Okay, now I told you about the pulse energy. That's what I showed you on the WhatsApp. Now I have Sheru and Turno. Sheru is the microgrid aggregator. Turno is the battery aggregator, right? So now I'm going to the Sheru. Okay, okay, 1 second. I just need to see what is the username password. Okay, UI demo at the rate Sheru.se. So here, this is the Sheru app. Now we are actually trying to simulate, okay, Sheru has to identify that demand. In normal scenarios, it will be happening in the backend. Now I'm going to click on check demands. So now, because I have already generated demand from Pulse Energy side, now if I click on check demands, so what happens is that all the demands which has been generated by all the users will be displayed here. Now this is actually sending a request onto the network to actually figure out a demand which is there in Pulse Energy network. So 2 units of demand which I generated right now. If I actually do one more time, it will say that 4 units of green energy. So one demand we have just simulating it. Okay, one demand 10 rupees actually connects to about converts to around 2 units of energy. Okay, now what I'm doing is that I'm actually selecting this. Okay, I need to first confirm this order, this demand, whatever has been generated, because otherwise if I do not purchase this demand, this is something you just consider it as actually futures and options in the market. The demand has been generated and this contract is being sent, it's been sold in the open network, and somebody who is discovering can actually purchase it. Assuming if I do not purchase, somebody else discovers and they will purchase it, and after that this demand will not be available. So I'm going and purchasing it, which actually sends a confirmation request back to the network saying that I'm actually confirming this demand. Okay, order has been placed. Okay, I'm going back. Okay, now if I go and check demands, I won't be able to see anything because it has already been consumed by, not consumed, actually purchased or consumed by one of the what is it, consumer applications like Share. So there's nothing there, right? Okay, now what I need is that I have 2 units of energy demand. Now I need supply. So now what I'm doing, I'm firing another request. So this will go to Turno. Yeah.
Uh,
Okay, so Terno is saying that there is 2 units available, 6 units of energy available, supply is available. Okay, I can select any one of them. So I can select this one. I can actually purchase.
So the
Can
Sheru pays for the demand and the supply?
yes,
Like
you have to, right, because somebody else is actually generating, reselling it as a future and contract.
how does Sheru make money?
No, Sheru will make money. I will come to that. So there is no charity here. Okay. Okay, now, okay, so what happens is that now this thing, right? So now what is happening is that I actually got 6 units of maybe because this was actually not, and 6 units of supply, right? So now what I can actually push it to the grid. So which means I'm actually reconciling right now. So just a simulation, but behind the scenes there is hardware and everything which has been set up. Okay, and once this is fully connected, if I push to the grid, actually this 6 units of energy goes to the Beckn grid. It's not that it's just a software simulation. No, actual hardware is connected to this one. Okay, if I push to the grid, okay, it says push to the grid right now, but the actual hardware is actually pending for certain approval, which has been set up in.
And by this time, that person who have ordered that charging, they have already received the energy.
He has, see, this is async. It does not need to be on demand, because anyway whatever units get consumed, somebody else is going to consume from the grid, right? It's not. But the very idea is that see, we are talking about sustainability. Okay, which means that some units we are actually trying to reconcile those many units which are actually getting consumed. So if somebody is looking out for pure green energy, there is a lot of companies who are actually investing on carbon neutral green energy and a lot of other things, right? So if you look at somebody, you say that okay, I will only consume green energy. You can actually choose that option. Not only that, since green energy is actually a cheaper option, I can actually the Pulse Energy is able to give you a discount also of 2 rupees, because the production cost is very less, right? It's coming from solar, and the production cost is very less, and because of that, you can actually give it at a cheaper
That
price.
perspective, then why would they, like, in the customer perspective,
Hmm.
they get two options. One is like green energy, which is lesser price. Why would anyone choose the other one?
No, no, this is about just
Is it
generate.
related to that charging port? If only they have green energy, then will
No, no, no. It's not about that because any charging station does not have an actual green energy. Green energy is sitting somewhere else. You are actually uploading it. Yes. Yeah, that's it. Yes. Yeah. So in order to generate demand, because if I say 15 rupees, 15 rupees, right? Okay. So coming back to the presentation, just a minute. Let me. I can actually just stop this. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So I think I'm almost done with my presentation on the backend part. So I actually wanted to invite the community team who's with me, and they will actually explain about the community initiatives and other things which we are doing on the backend side.
Hey guys,
Yeah,
am
I
I
think
audible?
one second, I'll give you the mic.
Apparently, I have a lot of hair and this won't fit, so please don't mind. Am I audible? Okay. So, hi guys, I am Ansha. I lead the global community initiatives for Beckn Protocol. I think by what Faiz has been talking about for the last couple of hours, it has been evidently clear that whenever we are talking about Beckn, we are talking about scale. Scale as in population scale. Population scale technologies that are commonly around us are UPI. Usually when platforms try to reach scale, today if you look at Amazon, Amazon serves 300 million customers worldwide. And that presumably is a huge scale for us, right? Uber, one of the biggest ride aggregators in the world, serves 130 million people worldwide. Huge scale, apparently. But they are, if you look at the amount of population that we have, globally, not just in India. They haven't even scratched the surface. Whilst UPI, the transaction volume is in trillions. So we say when we are talking about scale, why is it limited to 1 or 2% of the global population? We should at least be talking about 10% of the global population. How can more and more people formally become a part of a digital ecosystem, a digital economy? That is what the idea of Beckn presents. And if you earlier in the presentation, Faiz was talking about such open technologies like internet, GPS, SMTP. All of these technologies have been what they are today because they were open and people had unrestricted access to them. They were allowed to innovate on their own. They were not pushed into any directions. They were enabled to imagine with these technologies. We want to present the same approach with Beckn. Hence, we take the whole community approach towards adoption of Beckn. Beckn is a completely community owned and governed protocol. And today we are here talking about how this community facilitates this open innovation with the using the community. So let me, rather than first talking about what does the community do, what can the community offer, let's talk about how community has taken a step ahead, taken charge, and done things on their own. We just saw the UEI network. UEI network, the first person to adopt Beckn in the UEI network was Pulse Energy, a completely community-driven initiative. Somebody from the community realized that whilst ONDC was one of the first implementations of Beckn, they realized that why just economic transaction around local retail? Why not consider energy as as an economic resource and transact that via an open network? It started with a simple use case of EV charging. Other people started realizing when EV charging was on ground, energy is a token in itself. Energy has much more use cases and it is not limited to EV charging. Hence, Sheru came up, Turno came up. Multiple people are now also coming up with this energy ecosystem. A lot of people want to integrate with sustainability. Carbon credits are keeping up. Somebody interestingly now is a beekeeper and wants to establish a open network for bees. So if you really look at it, the possibilities are limitless. What we are trying to do with the community is establish this thinking of an open network. How do you imagine with open networks and how can you implement? Our idea is to propagate what open networks can do. The community kind of takes their own take on it. You know, maybe this is my use case. Decentralized and interoperable discovery of resources in my domain can help me that way. So that is essentially where we are. I'll just quickly move on to how we do things here at our community. We don't really believe in constricting our community. Let's say there is obviously some channels that we run as the foundation who is the genesis author of the protocol, but it is not limited to it. Everybody who wants to interact in a Beckn Open ecosystem, uh, the community is entirely open for you. You can just come access the technical assets, learn about Beckn, uh, chime in the community, take help from anybody in the community, and get started with it. For all that matters, go ahead and run your own community, like 4 or 5 people working on a simple use case. Essentially, we are also promoting how don't want to be the people on ground talking about Beckn all the time. I don't think that is, we're talking about decentralization. If I am the only person talking about community and going ahead and pitching Beckn, I don't think that is a very decentralized approach to take. We want all of you, everybody who's present, everybody who's even remotely interested in the idea of decentralization and interoperability to kind of learn more about Beckn, what Beckn offers, become Beckn experts, and become spokesperson for Beckn. Go out to technological ecosystems, talk about Beckn, evangelize Beckn. Some of the some of the programs that we run are a Beckn experts program, in which if you are interested in taking, you know, you truly believe in the technology and want to evangelize it in your circles, we are here to kind of help you get started with that, give you an end-to-end training about Beckn, how can you give you content around an end-to-end support system around how you can run your own small sort of a niche community with Beckn. We also interact a lot with the students because there is a common belief that students are not yet corrupted by the platform or aggregator model of businesses that we work with. Students' minds are really fresh. They are open to new ideas, open to innovate more. So we have started working with this community called Code for GovTech, or C4GT for short. We are running a small pilot chapter in Bangalore. Earlier we were doing a couple of internships. So 12 students came on board, and within a span of 3 months were able to create end-to-end projects with Beckn all on their own, with a couple of mentors present there to help them. And these projects were not limited to any particular domain. They're fairly wide. Some were contributing to the core specification of the protocol itself. Some were working on the specification. Some were working on the product. Maybe somebody was working on the user application side for mobility. So the use case is fairly diverse. We are not limited to any domain. The spectrum is fairly wide. More applications of community are purple economy. Purple economy is supporting people with disabilities. So I think Faiz was talking about Namayatri, a small integration that a group of people in the community decides that anytime you are looking for a driver, you are trying to call him, hey, where are you? But imagine a person with an hearing aid. They can't call the driver. They cannot know, maybe they can't hear. How will they coordinate with the driver? So with a small integration, because of an open network and access to everybody's data, there's a small tag that is defined. If you select that you are a person with disability, the app will disable the calling function for you. Let's say you're a person with hearing disability. Now the driver cannot call you. It has been disabled on the driver's end. You can only chat. So that is one of the small integrations that we've been doing. Another community application is coming in form of Pulse protocol, wherein we are trying to set up an open network for online dispute resolution and tele law. I think this is, and there's a small bit of our Discord server that I would like to give you guys an overview of, so that you have an idea of how the community actually interacts. Dheeraj, can you?
Hey folks, good evening. My name is Dheeraj Shetty and I'm the community manager at Beckn Open Collective. Ansha gave us a brief overview of our community. So I'm here to talk about the Discord server. That's where our basic interactions happen. So currently we are a 5,000 strong community, and all of our communication primarily happens on Discord, but we are also planning to eventually we'll branch out to Telegram and other channels. So if you scan the QR code on the screen, you'll be able to access our Discord server. So I'm assuming everybody is on the server by now. So if not, let's please scan the QR code and hop onto our server. So I can guide you through the experience. Yeah. So this is this is where you basically land if you had scanned the server now. So this is where it will basically redirect you. This is where you will see me carrying a welcome board for you guys and giving a brief introduction of our server. So if you see the first category there, it's called getting started. No matter where you are in your backend journey, you might be someone who heard backend just today, or someone who has been working on backend for a while now, or someone who is working on backend and got stuck with some problem, or somebody who's well versed with backend for quite a while. This is where you can get all your queries, all your doubts, all your also find potential collaborations and synergies. So this is where you have to be if you are dwelling in any part of in the world of backend. So the first category there is the getting started category, which will serve as your starter kit. So one particular channel there is very helpful for you guys. That is the Beckn starter toolkit. So you can see there are multiple resources listed here, which ranges from very beginner friendly content, which might be just our website, or the blogs, or the videos or presentations which will help you understand. The presentation which you're seeing today is also there, so you can understand what Beckn is. Or if you're someone who is building on top of Beckn for a while now and you're looking for more resources, technical resources for say, or maybe you're looking for the GitHub repos or links to various reference applications which are out there, or for UI templates, or for anything that is technically will help you build on Beckn, you can find it here. That is the advanced accelerator kit. So this is basically a starter kit for you guys to get started with your journey. And if you are somewhere in the journey, this will help you accelerate that journey. So we also have our introduction channel. So if you guys have joined the channel server by now, please do drop hi for the community, or maybe just drop your introductions. Tell them what you are interested in, what you are building, and if this is a way to find someone who is also has a similar interest like you. So moving forward, we have other channels where we have the community launch, where basically all the major discussions happen. So if you have some queries regarding anything that is related to backend, this is where you'll probably drop. That is the general discussions. And if you have more uh, if you have more direct queries, that might be something related to ONDC, because that is something that we get a lot, because ONDC is built on top of Beckn. We get a lot of ONDC queries. So we have created this dedicated channel called All Things ONDC, so that you can drop, if you are building something on ONDC, this is where you can drop your queries and get them resolved. And yeah, whenever you drop your query, within the first 24 hours, it will get resolved. Someone from the community will come forward and help you out. And if it is not cleared in the first 24 hours by the community, I will personally take it up and get it answered. So there is no query which will go unanswered. So if you are starting with the journey, this is will help you out a lot. And we also have explore backend section, where we have a domain specific approach. If you are building something in mobility, if you are building on something on ONEST, that is skilling and education, or if you are building something in UEI, that is energy, so we have dedicated channels to discuss this your problems, your issues. So we also have dedicated mentors on those channels who will help you out with all your queries. So, and also we have some buzz going around in the Beckn Open projects. These are our open source projects that we are working in multiple international countries. Like we have the Open Belem project there, which is happening in Brazil. We have the Open Gambia, which is in West Africa. We also have the Kochi Mobility Open Mobility Network there. So this is how we are basically structured our GitHub. We'll also have much more features and announcements coming soon. So we'll have AI-enabled chatbot, which will make the process of getting your queries resolved seamless and much more efficient compared to a human manual approach. So this was our Discord, and also I am happy to make a small announcement here today. So in since we are branching out everywhere and we want to have our presence everywhere, we are happy to announce the start of Beckn Kerala chapter, and we are announcing it here. So if you scan the QR code here, it will redirect you to a WhatsApp group, and this will serve as the first interest group, and which will eventually become the Kerala Beckn chapter. So we can discuss the possible synergies there, collaborations there. So all the folks in here, I would sincerely request you to join the community, and we can take the conversations forward there. And we are also everyone from the team, that is me, Faiz and Ansha, are available here post this session. We can have a one-to-one conversation on what can be done, how can we take things forward. So yeah, that's it from my end, guys.
Uh, Thank you for having us here. Thank you, Deepu, for facilitating this amazing session. And Deepu is one of the anchors why we were able to start a Kerala chapter for Beckn. So a huge round of applause for Deepu, everybody. And thank you, Fire team, for helping us with what we were able to do here. Extremely grateful. Looking forward to hosting you all in the community. Maybe this is how we want to start mobilizing a local ecosystem. Beckn's journey started in the pandemic, so our efforts towards community building were fairly online up until now. But at this point, we are venturing into establishing more local micro communities, and very happy that Kerala happens to be the first place where we do that. So thank you so much for having us. I hope this session was even a little bit exciting for everybody. Thank you, guys.
So we can officially wind up the session. Before that, there is a small token of appreciation for Faiz. I invite the Fire Body Committee, Arjun and Subil, to hand over. Subil, yeah. Okay, so once we start the backend community, it is, as she rightly said, like we are actually corrupted with the platform thinking and we are limited towards that. And whenever we see something as an open network, uh, it will take some time for us to digest. And let's take our own time. And then as a community, we will be there for continuous interactions. And then eventually there is a lot of opportunities for building networks in our state. And Beckn is considered as a great moment against actually there are certain giants that is who are building monopoly and taking the smaller players out of the game, and Beckn is helping the small players come together and fight back and be there in that space and have their own space and make it more accessible and more uh, for example the cost wise affordable for the community also. So Beckn uh, eliminates the monopoly and makes consumer as the king, and each and every small players have their own role to play in the network, and it compartmentalizes, or it actually separate the concerns and separate. For example, in the ONDC itself, like those who are providers, they can focus on providing better quality products. Who are sellers, who can have the better marketing and better selling things. Who is the delivery boys can join, and in the open network, it is not just like one platform they have to deliver. They can deliver for the multiple things, so that the productivity also multiplies by becoming part of open network, and that can be considered as the next upgradation of the internet, like up to Now we have protocol up to the HTTP layer, and Beckn is building another protocol above the HTTP where the website or these things can communicate with each other. And this is something that is being recognized, and it is going global. And let Kerala be the first place where we have a strong community that actually make use of this opportunity and build things out of it. Yeah. And thank you so much for. Yeah.
I think you want to talk.
I just want to quickly highlight some of the programs that have been supporting Beckn in India. Uh, More in the direction of ONDC. Antler is running a specific ONDC cohort, ONDC or Beckn cohort. If you're building with Beckn, if you're a startup founder who's looking for some grant or want to get into the residency program of Antler, they have a dedicated community supporting startups building on ONDC and Beckn, and hence supporting them in the entire journey, and whatever comes out of it, around 3 million of capital has been deployed in the last 6 months. The community is around 800 startups strong. And Google Cloud is also now supporting ONDC with Google Cloud running an accelerator program with ONDC. And right now, as we speak, there's a Google X ONDC hackathon also happening. I think the registrations for it are now closed. It's in the ideation phase, but that is where the ecosystem is coming and chiming in. A lot more big announcements are coming soon. So I think if you are a part of the community, you will definitely be able to kind of have an access to them. Soon, we are also thinking of launching community grants, bounty programs with Beckn. So, I mean, 2024 is going to be entirely going to be a community narrative for Beckn. So, happy to see you guys there and interact. Looking forward to interacting with all.
I just want to add to one of. I just want to add one of the things what Anshay has mentioned. Assuming if you're actually a budding entrepreneur and actually wanted to come up with certain ideas or wanted to build a startup, so Beckn is actually a great opportunity. And there are a lot of VCs who are actually looking at, I mean, especially Antler. They have actually recognized Beckn and ONDC. If you have any idea who's actually going to build on Beckn, there's dedicated funds coming out of Antler who can actually support you. So if you look at, I mean, it's not about just coming up with any idea. It's there have dedicated funds only for Beckn, and if you want to build something on ONDC, also again dedicated funds available. So which means that it's a great opportunity available right now in the market, and especially if you're actually a budding entrepreneur who's actually wanted to set up some big new ideas.
Okay, normally we see things that is introduced in the US and will be available to India after some time. We saw like Instagram launch new things. We are always waiting for something to be created in US and consume here. And you have to understand UPI or Aadhaar, everything was something that is started in India and it went to the population level, and now the world is adopting that. Right now in US, if you look that everyone is carrying the credit card, but here it is not. We just carry the mobile phone. So it is the decade for India, and these are the things that actually powers us to be the leading the innovations across the world. So here, that is, you are able to listen to it from the right backend team in moving forward. Like the community might be something that will come and evangelize this thing, but as the early adopters or early, you got the early information about backend, and it will take some time for you to digest and start building. But you just understand backend is a way of thinking about open networks, and anything that you want to build, this should act as a seed for you to think with. Instead of thinking in a platform based thing, that is think about the open network and mechanizing it. Okay. Thank you so much, and let's take a picture together and officially wind up the session. And normally, Fireport 80, after even networking is the key. Like people who want to stay back, they can stay back and discuss with the community leaders as well as the speaker. So at first, let's have a picture together. Yeah. Thank you so much, and let's close today's session.